Hey guys, this is MTA New York City Transit fan here, reporting on this new situation again. And yes, it's about the R179s and R160s that have came back to the C and made a return back onto the A as well, along with some R32s coming back. So I would like the first thing is to say that yes, the R179s, they how can I say this? Right now transit fans is really getting aggravated. Yeah, because now the R179s, we all thought they would have been another improvement to the new technology trains for the B division. Now we realize they're turning out to be a bunch of garbage. Yeah. And as we all know now, these trains run only on the A, C, J, and G lines. And as we all know again, they're out of service because a 10-car A train set had split apart near Chambers Street at 1 a.m. So now all the R179s is officially out of service, so MTA can check them. And this is the second time again because just recently in January they were all taken out of service because a door opened while the train was moving, and that's very dangerous to passengers. So as we all know now, we're not going to be seeing R179s for a while. So what they did was, since they had to take most of the fleet out, they had to bring the R42s in January. They brought them back because they was going to retire them at that time. So right now we only have R32s running on the J and R160s back on the A and C, which is good because R160s they really performed better on the A and C. They performed good on the C. Never seen an A on 160 in person, but by the way it's looking, I could tell they perform much better on there. So right now, everybody is hating on 179s, and I can't even blame you guys. I feel the same a little bit, because when 179s came out, I was so excited about them, because it's another new technology train. Well, my personal favorite tech train is the R160, and R160s, they perform much better. Along with the R143s, which is only on the L, so it's on the J. So another thing with the R179s out, they had to put R143s with the J, along with some R32s. But some R143s run on the J anyway, even when the R179s was around, was in service. So that's nothing new to us. So we all know just recently the Coney Island yard swap with Jamaica Yard is complete. So what they did was Jamaica Yard sent a couple of 160s for the F to Rockaway Park Yard and Rockaway Beach, and let the A use some of those. And it's good because the R160s never go to far Rockaway like that, so it's a rare sight. But I personally say, in my personal opinion, that R160s should stay on the C when the R179s return. Because, R160s, they were good on the C. Because, when R160s came around on the C, that was a shock to everyone. Because we all know the R160s was mostly on the E, the F, MR, the N and the Q, and the W, and the V back in 2010. And just seeing them on the C is a rare sight. And the J and the LZ, R160s was on them too. So, it's like, now, for what's going on 160 should stay on the C. Because they perform much better on the C. And they didn't have less problems when the R160s came out. Because when the R160s came out, it was like, boom, just like that. No problems, going right into service. Because, I mean, like, they were built by Kawasaki and Alstom, so we know Kawasaki gets things right. But with R179s, it's like Bombardier. Well, Bombardier is not going to get a contract with MTA again, because, I mean, like, this was the last straw. And, like Andy Byford said, with the R179s, yeah, there's a lot to be dealt with, because it's like, you know, we paid you guys to build these trains. We expect them to be at our standards. And the fact that they're acting up and breaking down, it's like, enough is enough. So I say Bombardier should be held accountable. But even though the funny thing is, Bombardier also made the R142s, which was on the 2, 4, and 5. And when they came, it's like, the R142s didn't have problems. So, I mean, like, what's the problem with the R179s? Like, you did successful with the R142s. How come you can't do the same with the R179s, you know? And it's like, with the R179s now, when they all came out, everyone said that they were better than the R160s, which is a lie, because R160 performed much better. And it's like, why does it gotta act like this, you know? And we dealt with a lot of things. And with the R179s out of service again, this pretty much shows how really unreliable they really are, and shows how much breakdowns they can have. And also, this is the first time in the last few years we see a 10-car set on the A, because the A, we all know, it was just like the R back in the day, fully flooded with R46s. And somewhat R32 when they did the yard swap, but they did a fleet swap, excuse me. So with the R160s back on the A and C, I'm personally glad. Well, the A, it was a shock, because I didn't expect them to send R160s over there. I thought they was going to send some 46s. But the fact they sent an R160, it just shows that MTA has R160s being the most reliable trains they have out there. And it really is. What I can personally say is R160s and R143s are the personal best trains, tech trains for the B division. As for the R179s, they're really going to start acting up. They want to act up all of a sudden, and it's like they paid all this money for them. As I was saying before, the A and C should keep like some 160s, but I mean, like, the 160s on the A, that's not going to happen because they need them for CBTC on the E, F, and M and R lines. So they need everything. And the 160s, I mean, like, the L, they really don't need them because you have R143s. So, I mean, like, that's really the point. So you got R143s, you've been dealing with them since 2001. And the R160s came around a few years later. So, I mean, like, the R160s, they should keep them on the C when the R179s come back. Because it already shows now that not a lot of people like the R179s. Even the train operators said it themselves. So, R179s, no, it is not really that good. And the only good major thing about the R179s is when you're in the station, it's quiet. But, yeah, it's really quiet. But when it comes to the 179s, so all transit fans is like, we don't want you no more. Like, we will only deal with R32s and R160s. Well, with me, personally, I'll just deal with R160s. Because personally, R160s is my number one favorite. Because of their fast speed and less problems to deal with. Especially on the E, because they really handle themselves good on there. But I say it's nice to see R160s back on the A and C. Especially the A, because when the R160s came around, they sent them on the A a few days after testing. And that's when they sent them to Cody Island to run on the N. And, they didn't see much R160s after that. So, And with the R160s on the C, I mean, it's a complete... I'm proud to see R160s back on the C, personally. Because when R160s went on the C, they had to swap out with East New York and Pitkin into a 7th Street yard because some R32s had problem with their AC, and it usually be hot in the summer, so they sent them on the J so they can get more, because most of the J is above ground, except of Manhattan and somewhat the eastern section of Queens. So they sent some R160 that way, and that was a shock to all of us, because I mean, like, the C was known to having R32s strictly, and the A, strict before the R160s was even thought about on the C, they were strictly on the A and the R. But the R, sometimes they had some R160s. That's besides the point. Right now, we all know that this was the last straw with the R179s, and at this point, we're all happy to see 160s on the A and the C. But my personal opinion is that the C should keep their 160s even when the R179s comes back. Or even better, send the 179s to the J, or send the 160s on the C. Because the C was much better with 160s and R32s. Somewhat R46, but actually the R46s are really not that bad on the C. My point is, they should stay on the C, and the R179s is right there. Well, we don't even know if MTA wants to think about replacing them, because at this point, everyone's tired of them. Because, I mean, like, it wouldn't be surprising if they replaced them all with an R211, because we all know the R211 should be coming in, like, next year. And, yeah, and I mean, that's the end of the line for the R46s and stuff. Because right now, the only lines that's really affected is the A, C, J, and Z. Because they're the only main lines right now that have R179s. And it's like, right now we're having major tech problems with the R179s. I mean, like, now we got cars splitting up while in service. So, Bombardier, they did some work, but not a lot of work to safety-wise. Because, I mean, like, because, yes, this train was in motion, but suppose this train was, like, running full speed in the cranberry tubes or somewhere else where, you know, the A really runs express. And it's like, you know, R179, they just personally think that they should just keep them out of service for a while. But I mean, like, it's bad enough that we already have trains out of service, and, you know, some R160s from the L and M had to be taken off their routes to put on the C, and some R160s from the F going to the A. And personally speaking, R160s on the C should stay, and if they want to keep an R160 on the A, good job, because I never seen an R160A like that personally. But the fact that if we have an R160 on the A, an R160 on the C, that would be good. But here's the thing. They need to put CBTC on the Queens Boulevard line. So, if that wasn't happening, who knows? Maybe they would have kept it or not. But the C performs good with R32s and 160s, so I feel like 160 should stay. And R179s should... They can split them 8-car sets between the J and the C. The 10-car sets, you could just put them on the A. I really don't care, personally. And it's like, this recently, we had this yard swap, and also the recent retirement of the R42s. Now, with the R42s and R32s, I feel like MTA should hold off on their retirement. Because, I mean, like, we're having problems with the R179s now, so I mean, like, hold off their retirement until the R211s comes in. Because not only, like, because suppose, because right now we're getting rid of all 42s and R32s, right? Once they're all gone, and then we got another problem with the R179s again, is like, really, what else can we do? Because you got CBTC fully running on the Queens Boulevard line, so that means, yeah, you can take some of their trains off, but you can't take a lot. And the R46s, they're like 75 feet long, and they're restricted to the J, L, M, and M lines, and the Z line, because that's BMT Eastern Division, because the lines got tight curves. So, if you currently think about it, it's best to hold off the R32's retirement. Because personally, I like the tech trains more. But if you think it's smart, you should keep the R32s in until the R211s comes in. Because we're having major problems with the R179s. And it's like, yeah, once they get this problem fixed up, who knows if, a few weeks or months later, the R179 is going to act up again. And it's like, Bombardier, I don't know why they want to act up with it now, because they made the R142s when they was starting to be built, and the R142s really don't have that much problems like that. And the fact that they're acting up, it's like, come on, guys, like, you made the R142s, and they performed so well, and now that you're making the R179s, it's like, what y'all doing? Why are they acting up for? So, personally, my greatest and strongest suggestion for MTA is to hold off the R32's retirement and split the R160, well, take some 160s and send them off to the C, because the C was so great with R160s, to the point where it's like, every time I see an R160 on the C, I just go crazy. Because it's like, with the C, it's like, they were so strictly with R32s, and with a tech, with an R160, which is my personal favorite on the C, is like, wow. Just wow. And it's like, wow. And with the R179s, I do get happy and all when I see them on the C. But now it's like, not really, no more, no. Because now I'm more of an R160 type of guy. And with the 179s, it's like, alright, well, nowadays going to end up having a problem again. And with the R179s, I felt like if they were built by Kawasaki, we wouldn't have these problems with them now. Because, I mean, the R179s would have performed just amazing, to the point where R32s and R42s, hey, y'all can go. I mean, we got perfectly good trains which will run well. And I mean, the R160s, when I built the R188s and the R142As and R160s and R143s, when they were built by Kawasaki, along with R160s built by Alstom, they performed really, very well. And it's like we have less frequent breakdown problems with those cars. With the R179s, they just, like, they break down to the point where you got to remove the whole fleet from passenger service. And right now with MTA, they should hold Bombardier accountable, because, like, you make the R142s good, but you don't make the R179s that much perfect. Because right now, the only reliable tech train in the B division we have right now is the R160 and R143, which is on the L, but still, it's a tech train. It's still reliable. You got less breakdown problems. I'll still take its word for it. But with the 160s, it's nice to see them on the A and the C, especially the C, because those days from 2014 down to 2018-ish or 19-ish, that's when R160s on the C was like, wow, just amazing. And I mean, like, the R160 performed very good on the C. And when the R160s came to the C, it was a whole big shock to every single one of us. Because we all know the C was the king of R32s. Well, when R160 started coming around, that's when they replaced most R42s, most R32s, R40 slants, 40 mods, and R38s. And that's when they flooded most of the lines that they already been on now. We, well, been on now before the Coney Island yard swap, along with Jamaica. And we know now R160s now, they're strictly going to be on the E, F, M, and R lines now, somewhat on the L and the J. And you're going to only see like a few sets on the N and W and the Q. But right now, my personal thought now is that you're going to mostly be seeing R46s on the Q. The R46 on the W, I mean, like, they should run them on there because, I mean, like, the W is less frequent. And that someone has to use the same terminus as the N and R. Like, the R, you got to use the same tracks at Whitehall. And Astoria, you got to share the tracks with the N. Well, the W is less frequent, so I mean, like, yeah, you should run all 46s on there, but run a little bit of R160s on there too. So with this whole situation with the R179s, I say, like, it's really freaking ridiculous. The fact that we're having these problems with them, and they just act up and act up and act up. So, like I said, R160s, stay on the C. Split the C's fleet should be R46s, R160s, and R179s. Because I say R160s performs much better on the C. And with the A, I mean, keep one set of R160s on the A. And when you bring R179s back, hey, good, yeah, whatever, sure, yeah. And with the R32s back on the J, to finish off its retirement, I say run it on the C. Because the C mostly had the upper hand with them. And the fact is, it's good to see R160s again back on the A and C. If the A and C was fully R160s, I mean, like, hey, good. The R160, A, C, and E, that's a perfect 8th Avenue type of thing. Because now, like, before the R179s even thought of, the 8th Avenue line, it was a mix of old and new. Like, the E was R160s, the A and the C was R46s and R32s. Now we got, in around 2013 and 2019, we had R160s on the C and E, along with some R32s and 46s on A and C as well. And now we have R160s again on the E, like it was before, and R179s, R46s on the A and C. But now, with R179s out of service, we got R160s on the A, C, and E, along with some R46s. With the J, with R160s, some R179s from the L, R143s from the L, and a couple of, some R32s.
So my personal opinion is keep the R160s on the C when the R179s do return, and keep one set of R160s on the A, and the rest you can send it back to Jamaica Yard to handle their business on the E, F, and R lines. And R32s run that last train on the C and the N as well, because I think the N had the R32s first. So yeah, that's my personal opinion on this whole R179 issue and R160A and C returning. So yeah, this is MTA New York City Transit fan signing off, and see you in the next video.